Rock music is something I'm not particularly fond of, nor do I listen to. It is, however, the centerpiece behind the 1999 manga by Harold Sakuichi, Beck. I've always known of the manga Beck, hearing about its focus on music and just how darn good it is, but I never gave it a chance until last week, where it blew my expectations away. From what I'd heard, I figured it had some crazy philosophical message about the meaning of life. But Beck is not a psychological masterpiece that you have to break down and analyze. It is just a series you experience. There are two main plots relevant to Beck's story. The external challenges Beck faces as a band, like how well they perform, their need to gather funds, rough tours, and a bunch of other problems. This external plot focuses on their journey as an indie band and the struggles that come with it. The second plot focuses on the characters' internal relationships and the main character Koyuki's personal growth, with issues that persist between Beck's members that affect the band and relationships as an entirety. Ryusuke has to deal with loss, Chiba has to find out his role in the band, Saku is forced to move, Koyuki discovers what he loves, and Taira has to commit to Beck even with all his opportunities. The biggest focus of the second plot is obviously on our main character Koyuki and his various relationships with the vast range of characters outside of Beck. From romantic relationships and business deals, Koyuki's character evolves as he becomes a better artist and learns from those around him. Both the band's growth and the character's internal growth set a story that makes the experience enjoyable for any reader. I, who have the music experience of a first grader, didn't have to understand anything about the details of the music or references to understand that Beck fucking rocks. The best thing about Beck is the thing you can't hear at all, the music. At least just from reading the manga, the anime has its own whole soundtrack, which I'll go into later, but I absolutely love that Beck is formatted as a book. Obviously the manga can't add sound to it, but Beck doesn't include any lyrics or information about the song beyond its title. Past the names Tabasco and Human Fly, we only know what the song sounds like based off of the crowd's reactions and people's words. I know Tabasco is an energetic song centered around Chiba that emphasizes the explosiveness of his stage skills, but beyond that I have no clue where it would even start. Or any song that Koyuki sings. The second he opens his mouth to sing into the mic, it's like everything else becomes quiet, and I can visually tell that Koyuki's singing is supposed to be slower and more refreshing. Because Koyuki is such a beautiful singer, the medium works perfectly, as the best way to describe something that is perfect is to just not describe it at all, allowing the viewer to piece together the image in their mind. There's a big emphasis in the early chapters on the difference between good music and popular music. For example, the owner of the Grateful Sounds music event reminisces about the festival's main purpose, that music can change people. She describes the music Ran and Leon Skies, the two antagonists in the music industry, create as soulless pop music, which, and she quote, paralyzes people and steals their will to think about life. That sounds really fucked up, because it kind of is, and it also leans towards another whole spectrum of conspiracy theories in the real world on how Taylor Swift is mind controlling the population and all famous singers are part of the Illuminati, but I don't think that's what Beck is referring to. What the owner of Grateful Sound is describing are songs that are created to make money. Songs that just have a catchy beat that allow people to forget about their regular worries, which by itself is fine, but the problem arises when it blocks out real music. To the owner of Grateful Sound, real music is more than just a tune used to escape from reality and feel at peace. Music is something used to express feelings and change the listener as a whole. It's the difference between songs that make money and songs that attract people, which becomes increasingly more evident in Beck's live performances, especially the one at Grateful Sound. We see Beck on a smaller stage, but attracting a larger audience even through the pouring rain just because of their unique playstyle. Instead of the other bands who are pretending to go off, Beck quite literally is just going off. We also see how Beck is a different band from others through their record label dealer Kawakubo, who literally quit his job to bet on them succeeding. In his words, he describes some bands that just chase the dream of becoming famous and posting one good song. With their popularity fading, they disappear as well. But what Kawakubo sees in Beck isn't the desire to become famous or a chase for money, but a band that yearns to create music. Each and every member of the band craves the desire to practice, record, play on stage, and spread it for everyone to hear. What separates Beck from the other bands that just use music as a medium to survive is that Beck has a real feeling to their songs. Every song that Mongolian Chop Squad write, play, and record contains the feelings and emotions of each and every member. This feeling and emotion that Beck contains spreads onto their audiences and is clear with every performance they give, as you can see from the reactions in the crowd. From the people that switch locations to get a chance to listen, and the crowd that reflects the performance's energy, Beck radiates a feeling of expression. The band's expression and performances is clear and evident within the manga's art style. The art doesn't directly make the imaginative music sound better, but it makes the members look immersed while playing, which allows us to understand how the song is being performed. The best panels are the ones where we get to see Beck and other bands alike perform live shows. You could show me the same recycled panel of Koyuki singing or Ryusuke killing it on the guitar, and I would still get the same feeling of unstoppableness. It truly feels like the characters come to life in each performance, and you can feel that the song they are playing is amazing based on the energy they give into their live. The sweat that falls down their faces and the members' concentrated expressions as the background blurs brings a sense of intensity that the story otherwise can't explain. The art also expresses the unique ways in which bands perform, with other bands like Room 13, who quite literally rock the fuck out, bringing on an even more tantalizing energy than Beck's Chiba. The art is one of Beck's best aspects in my opinion, as it has to make up for a lot of what's missing, in songs without music or even lyrics. I think with a series that's all about expressing oneself through their music, the art is a way for Sakuichi to show that expression visually. However, the art in the beginning is not as good as it gets later. Obviously, a lot of series suffer from this, and I don't really find it a big issue, but if you dislike the art in the beginning, you just gotta stick it out in the first chapters. The art gets good pretty fast, and the first chapters aren't super important as they are just there to set up the story. But some of the perspective panels can make the characters look a little funky and mess up their proportions, making them feel compressed or shrunken down. It's not something I pay too much attention to, it's just that sometimes Koyuki can end up looking a little weird. Everything regarding the band Beck and how they work together follows the ideas of dreams, a central part of shonen storytelling and the driving force behind a lot of popular main characters. The vision that Beck chases is something that they all happen to dream about together, and pushes them along their journey to stardom with an undying belief that they will succeed. I think this relates to the feeling of their music and emotions that they pour into their songs. The reason their songs have so much life is because they all have the same festival dream, and it serves as the crux of Beck's belief, allowing them to perform at their best capability. Their dream leads the band to take on multiple part-time jobs, tour in poor conditions, and take up deals with the less fortunate record labels. Even in Koyuki's reflection on his choices when he drops out of high school and sees his old friends graduate, he doesn't regret it. Rather, it pushes him further to follow his dreams and keep running down the endless road with no clear answer. Beck is all about doing what you want to do, following your inspiration, and not stopping for other people. Some of my favorite moments in the series are when Koyuki is alone by himself and drifts off to think about music, striking a sudden realization of a new song or lyrics. The reactions which he gives and the feeling that he struck gold feel so real, and make his dream almost tangible. The band's passion for music kept me reading the story even when Sakuichi depicted how hard it is to be a small indie band. Even through the painful segments of the story, with the band stuck waiting for an opportunity to present themselves, the characters and the reader endures because they believe in Beck. All the characters in the story feel alive, from the various faces we see in the crowds or the other bands that rock out like madmen on stage. Beck includes a fair amount of comedy with its manga exaggerated faces and a surplus of fights which I was not expecting. In a manga centered around music, the main villain can do an upside down spinning whatever the fuck this kick is, and he's built like a chunky Bruce Lee. Characters always get into fights, and basically everyone in the series has taken a karate or taekwondo class and pulled out some straight UFC level moves. It doesn't take away from the series at all, I just thought it was a pretty funny addition, and the art kinda feels like you're reading a delinquent manga. Also, there's like an insane amount of gun usage in this story. I don't know if it's because it's inspired by the amount of rock music in America, but I was not expecting it to be so filled with violence. Beck's main cast is full of characters who all feel uniquely different, but when they come together to perform, they mesh perfectly as a group. Koyuki, the main character underdog with the least experience in the band, is shy and timid, but feels unstoppable when it comes to improving his craft. Even with a gun pointed to his face, the weak and scared Koyuki disappears as he steels himself as a performer, betting everything on himself and his music. There are a lot of characters in the series, but honestly half of them you couldn't give a care in the world about. Beyond the band, there's not many characters that get a lot of spotlight, with many side characters coming and going with no answer as to what happened to them. For example, Koyuki's bully during school actually had a serious love for playing guitar, and we see that during the school's festival. Though he is a complete dick, he eventually recognizes Koyuki as a legitimate rival for his musical talent. However, after Koyuki leaves school, we just never see Hyodo again, even though he aspires to be a guitarist as well. Another character I loved was Kevin, the leader of the band that Beck did his first Americas tour with. This cold-hearted guy who puts a lot of attention to profit and the survivability of his band is ruthless to the rough Japanese indie band that is Beck. But even though his character is harsh and can even be seen as antagonistic, it's clear that his intentions aren't completely negative, especially with the respect he shows Koyuki towards the end of their tour and the promises he upholds despite them being literal crimes. I wish we could have been shown what Kevin's band or Hyodo was doing later on in the series, but unfortunately we just never hear from them ever again. I think there's many characters like this in the manga which never get expanded upon, even though they had very interesting introductions. I don't know if it's because Sakuichi just didn't care or that there just wasn't enough room to focus on them, but either way I still enjoyed all the different characters. However, there were other characters whom I don't have a particular care for and didn't quite understand the purpose of, like Sayaka, who appears when Koyuki's girlfriend goes to study abroad. Her sole purpose was to create romantic tension and issues for Koyuki's love life, and she just seemed like a super weak plot device that was thrown in for absolutely no reason. It kind of upset me because in a world where there's a ton of cool characters with interesting motives or stories, some of them like Sayaka just feel like shallow nobodies with no depth to them, only serving to add as a useless narrative. And don't even get me started on the fucking subplot line with Saito and his homebreaking affair. That shit was so irrelevant, and it still got more screen time than Koyuki's damn girlfriend in the last segment of the series. This is what I found Beck to be lacking in, and something I desperately wanted to see more of. It expands on its characters and they serve their purpose, but someone's life doesn't end when they exit yours. I just wanted to see how characters have changed or evolved, and how they responded to Beck's immense growth. Beck's story is an unpredictable railroad that seems like it's going in circles for half of the series, but it's actually slowly been moving upwards and out of the darkness. Following Koyuki, whose nickname comes from the meaning of little, and is the measure of his immaturity and naivety with a need to prove himself. He's just a regular little kid with no dreams or aspirations of any kind, and he just happens to stumble across Ryusuke, who brings him into the world of rock. It is through this discovery of music that he's able to find something worth pushing towards and something that envelops his entire life. Beck is a story about what it means to succeed in the music industry and how truly difficult it can be. In some of their lowest moments they find success, but that success doesn't culminate and their struggles continue on and on. This series is an absolute journey where we follow each and every step they take to become the best, and I didn't realize until I finished reading, but 5 years had already passed within the series. Reading Beck didn't really feel like reading a manga, but like I was reading a biography of how the Japanese rock band Beck came to be. I've talked a lot about how the music in the manga isn't displayed and is left to our own imagination, which makes it a good thing, but I just had to see how they adapted it to the anime and how they depicted the songs Beck uses. And I was just absolutely blown away by how good the music was. The songs feel like they were written by Beck themselves, as if the band suddenly came to life. The slow and steady songs highlighting Koyuki's voices are perfect, while the more energetic songs with Chiba as the frontman exude a level of energy that matches the manga's dynamic pages. The music, which was done by a real band and in the style that Beck would realistically do, makes it feel like a soundtrack filled with love. Most of the music was done by the band Beat Crusaders, who made the opening song as well, and they took songs from various other rock Japanese bands at the time like Typhoon 24, Goofy's Holiday, and Tropical Gorilla. Beck is all about feeling. The feeling you get when the Mongolian Chop Squad band takes stage in an underdog fashion. The skewed perspective manga panels that suck you into the performance as if you were there watching them in person. The almost tangible feeling of Koyuki reaching a breakthrough of inspiration, or the romance that blooms throughout the story's long journey. Beck is a great read and will probably remain as a manga about music for a long while to come. I was staring at your shoulder, shivering